What up, Super Mario here, and a huge bombshell has been announced by Adrian Wojnarowski, who reports that agent Rich Paul has notified the New Orleans Pelicans that All-NBA forward Anthony Davis has no intention of signing a contract extension if and when presented, and that he has requested a trade. So that is huge. That is a nuclear-sized bombshell from Adrian Wojnarowski. So let's get into a little bit of a conversation, but before we get more deeply into this, I just wanted to preface this by saying I've been watching basketball since 1986. Yeah, I'm old, I know. So I don't really have a favorite team. I don't really have a favorite player. I just enjoy the game of basketball, and that's the only sport that I've ever watched. So, just take that into consideration when you're watching this video, and it's all hearsay. Nobody knows where he's going to go. I'm just going to give you my predictions on what is going to happen during free agency, not just for Anthony Davis, but for a few other players here in this video. But I'm going to try to make it as short as possible because I could talk for hours about basketball. So with that spirit in mind, just let me know what you guys think in the comments section down below, and I'd love to talk back and forth with you guys about the prospects of Anthony Davis going pretty much anywhere, because it's pretty much open season right now, and it's our Christmas. So, yeah. Okay, let's get into it then. So, obviously, Lakers fans are drooling at the prospect that LeBron James is going to be partnered up with Anthony Davis in LA. That is huge. That would be great. I grew up watching Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, so that would be an interesting rivalry, to say the least. Now, they obviously have a young core of talent that they can offer to New Orleans in exchange for Anthony Davis, but I'm not entirely sure that everybody on the roster is going to be available. I don't think Lonzo Ball is going anywhere, frankly. Although that could change, you never know. Never say never in this league. So, all that being said, obviously Kyle Kuzma is somebody that is going to be considered, as well as Brandon Ingram, even though a few months back, maybe even a few years back, Magic Johnson said Ingram and Ball are untouchable. Given Jeannie Buss's recent comments that anybody on the roster is available if it means landing a second superstar to pair with LeBron James. And, that leaves very little options in terms of who is going to stay and who's going to leave. I think the most tradable asset on the Los Angeles Lakers point of view is Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's contract, about $12 million, I think. I haven't checked, actually, but I think he's actually probably the best tradable asset. Now, keep in mind, I'm going to be thinking outside of the box here. I'm not just going to focus on the Los Angeles Lakers. I think I have a little bit more sinister motive, and I'll share that with you in a moment. So, this is what I'm assuming based on the roster that they have, given, that they just want Anthony Davis. I don't think they want to take on any other contracts or anything. So, there's also the possibility that they'll add another team, so to speak. I think, given Earvin Magic Johnson and LeBron James' relationship with Pat Riley in Miami, that maybe Miami will come in as a third team for this trade and offer Hassan Whiteside, one way or another. I think that's either a plan B or a plan A for the Los Angeles Lakers front office. So, all that in mind, I think the most likely trade, in my point of view, is Rajon Rondo, JaVale McGee, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope in exchange for Anthony Davis and Tim Frazier. Alright, that's if it's only two teams. And obviously the Los Angeles Lakers would either waive or buy out the contract of Tim Frazier. That'll leave room for Carmelo Anthony to come in as somebody else that they can add into the mix. So that's just speculation. Again, it's not written in stone or anything, it's just the way I look at it. So there's that scenario. My scenario that I'm more strongly considering in this case is I think Anthony Davis would be a better fit in Boston. Okay? That's going to anger a lot of Lakers fans. I understand that. But if you look at what's happening out in the East, I don't think it's feasible for the New Orleans Pelicans organization to feed one of their rivals. Even though they're not in the same division, they are still in the West Coast. I don't think it would be feasible for the New Orleans Pelicans to feed the Lakers and get really nothing in return. I think the New Orleans Pelicans want to remain competitive, and they want a core of young players who have proven themselves on the big stage. That brings Boston into the mix. You look at what they did last year in the playoffs with the play of Terry Rozier and Jason Tatum, all right? And Marcus Smart, people of that ilk, right? On the Boston roster, rather. And I think a more likely scenario, based on the salaries that they're given and what is required of Boston to do in order to beat a team led by Giannis Antetokounmpo. When you look at what Giannis brings, he's a 6'11 all-rounder. He can play any position he wants. And he's unstoppable. Even without a jump shot, he's just magnificent with the basketball. So who are you going to get that can be a solid rim protector and can more or less match up well with Giannis? And that would be Anthony Davis. They're about the same size, roughly the same skill set. The only thing I would argue is that Anthony Davis is a better shooter. Easily a better shooter than Giannis. From 15, 17, even 23 feet out, Anthony Davis can knock it down at a pretty consistent clip. And that would make Giannis troubled on the other side, defending him. So, keeping that in mind, I think that Boston would offer a better deal in this case for Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis and Etuan Moore in exchange for Jason Tatum, Al Horford, and Terry Rozier. The reason you would add Al Horford into the mix is because obviously they would have a huge gap in the middle. They need somebody who can still defend more or less the interior and still hit the outside shot. Jason Tatum proved himself last year in the playoffs as an up-and-coming superstar. Given the tension that's going on in the locker room in Boston as well, with Kyrie Irving exploding at one point this season, and looking at Marcus Smart making fun of Jason Tatum, I think that was a light rib, but it may be telling of something a little bit more. That's the way I look at it anyway. If you guys have any other teams that you're looking into that could land Anthony Davis, I mean, he's from Chicago. Chicago could offer a great package of, you know, like Lauri Markkanen and Chris Dunn. I don't think they'd be moving Markkanen, to be honest with you, but they do have some young players over there, and they could start fresh by adding somebody like Anthony Davis to their roster. I mean, any team would obviously be immensely improved by the addition of Anthony Davis. So, all that in mind, though, I think it's more likely that New Orleans would trade him into the East and get something in return where they can still remain competitive for a couple of years before doing a complete rebuild. Now, I mentioned earlier that another proposition that I had was JaVale McGee, Rondo, and KCP in exchange for AD and Tim Frazier. If they waive Tim Frazier, that means Carmelo Anthony would come into the mix. That's not a guarantee either. As you all know, Carmelo Anthony was traded to Chicago, who is either going to waive him or buy out his contract. But at this stage of Carmelo Anthony's career, I think Carmelo Anthony is more likely to want a championship ring this year than any other year. That will cement his legacy, especially in this era where everybody thinks that rings make you a Hall of Famer automatically. So I think that it's likely that Carmelo Anthony, when he is waived by March 1st, will sign with the Golden State Warriors to get that chip. Warriors are likely to waive somebody on their roster, one of the young guys, maybe from the G League or something, and just cut their losses with a young player to bring in Carmelo Anthony, who's a proven scorer, who can take a lot of pressure off of Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, and Klay Thompson to a degree, of, you know, sharing the workload offensively. Carmelo can still play, you know, he can still rebound and shoot the ball when he wants to. So obviously he would get that championship and still become a free agent at the end of the season. Whereas at the end of the season, I think what he would do, since he would get that championship ring, would then go to LA with LeBron to help out. And that would be how he would end his career. That's just the way I look at it again. So there are a couple of other trades that I would be interested in talking about, just very loosely here. I think it's pretty obvious that Jabari Parker from Chicago is either going to get bought out, waived, or traded. I can't really say for sure exactly where he is going to go. Maybe Washington is what I'm thinking, because Washington needs a little bit more help up front. I don't think Jason Smith is cutting it. Markieff Morris is very good, but they need somebody else who can come in and just relieve them for a few minutes per game. Obviously, the Washington Wizards would want to get rid of Kelly Oubre Jr., but I don't think those contracts match up. I think Kelly Oubre would be more of a trade exception in this case. I haven't looked any of this up, but this is just something I'm speculating based on their contracts. Simple mathematics, you understand. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I think is going to happen in terms of AD. I think it's a more likely place that he's going to end up with in Boston than in LA. But regardless, this is huge news, and it's going to change the face of the NBA. Whoever lands Anthony Davis, either before the trade deadline this year, which is in less than a couple of weeks, either that or in the summer, they're going to either ship him off during the draft or something along those lines in exchange for picks and cash considerations, of course. But I would like to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments section down below where you guys think Anthony Davis is going to end up and what package they would offer. I'd love to talk basketball today, and this has really motivated me to make this video. So if you enjoyed the video and you found it useful, make sure to give it a thumbs up. I humbly, deeply appreciate it. And if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing. It helps out the channel a lot. And we'll talk to you guys next time. Take care.